Yo, what is up, everybody? Chris here from Esports News Exploitation, however the flip you don't mean these interwebs. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys a super quick video because I've recorded this already before, and now I'm kind of pissed because I have to record it again. It was a 30-minute video with no audio, so here I am. I'm going to make this like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just going to go through everything quick. We had a lot of 3-0s. If you guys want to check everything out in depth, just go to codstats.com yourself. There's a link in the description below. Use code FSN Chris to sign up for an account. And yada yada yada. Bob's your uncle. So, gonna go through this quickly. 3-0 for FaZe Vegas. 1.22 from Draza. He took over 66 and 75, 67 and 55, excuse me. And then FaZe fried him 250 to 189 in the map 1. Yeah, 34 and 28 from Lunar is not enough. 37-25 from Simp, standout. Everybody else from FaZe fried. Everybody else from Surge cried. And then in the Dan map 2, of course, Abuza pulled out the sniper and took over 6-4. TJ tried his best. So did Lunars. 8 and 7 from TJ, 9-8 from Lunars. I'm not going to go through all the box scores for all this. I just want to get this out. 3-1 for FaZe Vegas where they close it out. Draza had a great map. Then in the second series of the weekend, C9 New York got taken down by Cloud9. Only surprising thing was that Cloud9 won the map 2. So as you guys can see, 1.44 from Cell, 89-62. Everybody else on Falcons, of course, went positive as you'd expect. Everybody from Cloud9 went negative. Not much of a surprise there. 250 to 210 on the Colossus HP. Cloud9 played them pretty tight here. Hyde had a good map. Cell went nuclear, 41-22, 1.86. Just showed that there's difference to skill in pros versus, C9 Joes. Map 2, of course, C9 were able to take a surprising map 2 behind a 9-6 from Encourage, the Stallions legend. Then Nezra and Hyde both had 7 as well, and Okus had 6, so good showing from them. Falcons, just bad S&D showing. Map 3, they got it back 7-2 behind 27-14 from Exnid. And then in the map 4, Den HP, of course, the Bulldog Kismet, he called game. Started barking, sent him home. So, in our last match of Friday, we had the LA Thieves taking on the Toronto Koi. 90 and 74 out of a BZ. If you guys want to check out any of the highlights from any of these series, they're on my YouTube channel as always. Same place you're watching this video now, so a little bit redundant, but just scroll on the page, you'll see all these matches. Joe Sieves stand up for the Koi side, of course, at BZ 1974. Like I said a second ago, stand up for LA Thieves. Everybody went positive, but Niam, he had a rare bad series with a .77. So we kicked things off. LA Thieves came out hot. Abizi had the best KD on the team, 1.67. Of course, 30 and 18. And then Scrap, his newfound duo, 38 and 32. And then on the Koi side, Joe Sieves went even, and that's pretty much all she wrote for map 1. Map 2 was a game 2 round 11 that went the way of the Thieves behind the First Blood Reaper, who got no First Bloods in this map, of course that being Abizi. He went 9 and 7, Scrap 8 and 7, and that's the difference maker there. Kleenex dropped 11 and 8 for the L, which is tough. Kips had 7 and 6, and Insight 8 and 7. So, yeah, just a tough one for Koi. Thieves, they just clutched up and they played better. So, speaking of clutching up and playing better, Koi was able to do that in the map 3 behind 32 and 20 from Joe Deceivs. Insight 31 and 22, Kleenex 25 and 21, and then everyone on Thieves went negative. And then Thieves, they took that Uno card and they said reverse. Everybody on Thieves went positive this time. Everybody on the Koi side went negative. So let's look at the next series, first series of Saturday. Hot 3-0. Toronto Koi came out in surprising fashion and gave G2 some very, very measured lashes. 1.33 from Insight, the man who we had all been looking to really get dropped if things didn't improve for this team. And he dropped him, indeed. So, yeah, Insight was the KD leader. Joe Sieves 67 and 51, 68 and 54 out of Kips. Great series from him, and Insight went even. And then on the G2 side, everybody went neg. So looking at the map 1, you had a 250 to 174 scoreline for the Toronto Koi. Insight 26 and 21, blah, 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 blah. Check it, pause it, check it out if you want. We had a round 11 in the game 2 S&D. Obviously, it's always S&D in game 2, but this one was on raid. Insight went nuts, and so Joe Sieves 11 and 6 out of Joe and 8 and 4 out of Insight. So looking at the G2 side, Kremp went nuts. He had 10 and 9, but wasn't enough to get the round 11 dub. Speaking of not being enough to get the dub, Kips was definitely enough to get the dub, 29 and 21. And then Joe Deceives 31, 23. Insight also went positive, 23 and 18. And on the other side, Astral is the only person to go positive. So, looking at the next series, another 3-0, another quick series with not a lot to talk about. Nasty tried his very best, but, I mean, wasn't really doing a lot. Him and Parrish had .9s, but Snoop and Cammy had .5, so slammed, right? Scrap 1.55. He was doing all the slamming, 76 and 49. And then, of course, everybody else went positive on the Thieves, including Neum, finally. So, green lights versus red lights, no squid games. LA Thieves came out really hot here. They played some squid games. Green light only for them, you know. 38 and 28 from Scrap, 29 and 22 from Hydra, Neum 23 and 21. Nasty's only player on Boston Shoot Back, 31 and 28. Map 2, 6-0 from the Thieves. Infinite scoreline from Scrap, 8-0. Neum 6 and 1, Abizi 6 and 2, and Hydra 4 and 2. Everybody on the Boston Breach got tucked to bed. Good night. We had 3 breadsticks and 1 person, that being Snoopy, dropped 2 kills. So terrible game for them. They followed up that 6-0 loss with a 7-0 loss in Overload, where they got absolutely overloaded, overstimulated, overcooked, whatever you want to call it. 1.22 from Purge, 28 and 23. That's the extent of the Boston Breach's positive performances here. Then on the Thieves side, everybody went positive. 1.48 from Hydra, 31 and 21. 30 and 21 from Scrap, his duo. 27 and 24 from Neum and Abizi, 19 and 17. And that's how the Thieves closed it out. Speaking of people who closed it out, we had Neptune and the Gentlemates getting a serious efficiency win. This is for all of the objective players, the Hill Kittens, and all the people who don't worry about slaying. They worry about the ending game tally. So, looking at the series, as you guys can see, the Carolina Royal Ravens had a 1.09 series KD, team KD. Lurks had 108 kills, 92 deaths, and everyone on this team except for Craze went positive, and they still lost. Craze had a .97, the worst performing player on the team had a .97, and they lost the series. You should be winning if you have 3 players green, right? And the other team has 3 players barely going positive. So, on the mate side, you had Neptune 98 and 96, just playing for the win. Same with Envoy 99 and 97, and Ghosty 88, 83 and 83. This series was a hallmark series to prove the identity of the mates is just playing for the wins and not being flashy. Looking at the map 1, it was a little bit flashy. Neptune was 36 and 27. Ghosty, of course, went positive as well, 26 and 24. Envoy 30 and 28. And Sib went 17 and 30. And they still won 250 to 217. Lurks 34 and 29 and Exceed 29 and 25. In the map 2, this went 6-3 in favor of the mates to the surprise of absolutely no one. Neptune, the king of Colossus, took over on Colossus. King of the Seas, king of Colossus. We'll take it, I guess, you know. 9 and 4 out of him, 9 and 6 out of Envoy. Sib went even. And then on the other side, Lurks, once again, was the lone standout for Carolina. 9 and 6, and then Exceed was 6 and 6. In the map 3, this is where Carolina was able to finally show some signs of life, right? Of course, you had Envoy and Neptune going 24 and 24 respectively for an even KD. Then on the Carolina side, you had Lurk and Exceed having same KD, 1.17. Lurk 27 and 23, and Exceed 21 and 18. Then Nero went slightly positive, 1.09. Craze 0.96, but they got the dub. Now on the map 4, this is where things got crazy. You of course had Ghosty, the only player on the mates to have a positive KD. He was 37 and 33, but they got the win. Look at how red everybody was. 36 and 39, 29 and 41, and 23 and 44 for Sib. They were outslayed by 20. I'm sorry. Am I reading that right? 32 kills. I said 22 kills. That's 32 kills. Wow. Okay. Nero 48 and 28 for the loss is crazy. 37 and 32 from Craze, 38 and 34 from Lyrics, and Exceed 34 and 31. Dude, Carolina got to blow it up. If you can't win those kind of series that are gimmies, replace the whole team. Speaking of replacing the whole team, Shotzi replaced the whole team with him damn self in this series. 1.11, 91 and 82 from the Warlord. And he got his get back on his ops. He took his chain back just like Mamba. More on that in a second. Yeah, so let's look at the scoreboard. 1.11 for Shotzi, 91 and 82. Merc 84 and 80. And then on the other side, Rancor 1.15, only standing out on the Miami side. So looking at the map 1, we had a 250 to 200 score line for the Miami Heretics. They finally got their get back on Den after they won a really nail-biting one against Optic Texas earlier in the year, right, where they came back famously being down by like 100 points and they won 250, 249. Anyways, they were able to take this one in really, really decisive fashion behind 39-24 from Metals. Rancor dropped 28 and 23, Super 27-24, and Trakes went even. Now in Optic Texas, everybody went negative. And this was just mulligan map, you could say, because they got it back after this, right? Round 11 victory from Optic Texas. Shotzzy was doing absolute madness on the map. Sorcery, wizardry, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. He was doing it. I mean, it was just insane. Vac, Ricochet, something's got to work against this guy. He's clearly cheating. You know, he tossed on. So anyways, 14-5 out of the Warlord, 8-6 out of Merc. And then on the other side, Super 11-8. Super has been amazing. His averages in S&D are like some of everybody else's best games. And then Trake's 9-9. Exposure Overload, of course, went 5-3 in favor of Optic Texas, behind who else but the savior of Optic, Mercules, dropping 26 and 17 to get them over the hump. This game looks close on the scoreboard, but it really wasn't. Rancor and Trakes tried to make a couple late game caps, but it made it visually a little bit interesting in terms of the scoreboard, but in terms of like the game and the eye test, never really got too close. So, the map 4 is one where it did get close. Rancor dropped 25 and 22. And then the Optic Texas side just absolutely outslayed them. They outslayed them by about, well, actually 8 kills, so not absolutely, but they outslayed them. You know, 31-24 for Hook, 32 and 26 for Shotzzy, Merc 27 and 26, and then Splash 17 and 23. So that's how Optic closed it out. They got their get back against their ops, and they sent us to Sunday, where we had the Riyadh Falcons taking on the Carolina Royal Ravens in a Blinkerton, right? As you guys saw, Carolina had a 1.09 team KD against mates, right? Yeah. And then in this series against the Falcons, they had a 0.82. So, not sure if you guys are keeping up with the math there, but that is a 0.27 KD decrease. That is quite significant. So, speaking of quite significant, we had Selim dropping 55 and 37 to get the series MVP, 1.49 KD. Of course, Kismet the Bulldog had a day himself, 1646, 1.3. And they started the day with the hot 3-0 over the Carolina Royal Ravens, which started off on Blackheart HP, where Exon dropped 28 and 18. You can look at everybody else's score lines if you want. And then Carolina Royal Ravens all went red. So, speaking of the map 2, the Scar S&D, this went the way of the Falcons. The Bulldog, he started barking, and yeah, everybody just went back inside. Crazy 8 and 7 on the other side, along with Nero, who was 7 and 7. And then on the Falcons, you had Exnit and Cell dropping 8 and 6 to complement his 10 and 6 to get a very easy dub. Speaking of easy dub, the Falcons were able to send the Royal Ravens packing back to the bedroom with a really, really rough night, something to think about, maybe a drink, you know. But yeah, 27-16 from Cell, he called game, and that's the 3-0. This is a series that was really interesting. We had the Boston Breach taking on the Vancouver Surge, and I expected the Boston Breach to win this one. You guys can see on my Week 2 predictions. I expected Boston to take this one in 3-2 fashion. I thought it'd be a relatively close series, but it was 3-1 for the Vancouver Surge, and they proved that they're just diffy, right? Boston really needs to blow it up. Nasty at a 1.18. On the other side, you had Gwen, the series MVP, 1.28, 87 kills, 68 deaths. Then you had Lunars 65 and 53. TJ 92 and 78. He had an insane series. And then Abe went even. So looking at the map 1, you had a 250 78 performance from the Vancouver Surge on Blackheart HP. Not a lot to say. You got Lunars 23 and 8, Abe 22 and 11, TJ 25 and 16, and Gwen 15 and 15. And everybody on the Boston Breach went super neg. Snoopy and Cam, 10 and 21 for Cam, 10 and 22 for Snoop. I mean, they're putting up tour dates, so it is what it is. Map 2, you had a Colossus S&D, of course, for the Boston Breach. It went 6-4 in their favor behind Purge and Snoopy, the SMG duo, not SNG, not Singularity. 7 and 6 from Purge and 9 and 8 from Snoop. Then on the other side, you had Gwen going 10 and 6 and Lunars going 6 and 5. So they had a good performance on the Surge side. It was just, Boston was just better. In the map 3, Den Overload, you of course had a close game. It was a 3-2 in favor of the Vancouver Surge, where they were able to take the momentum in the series behind 32 and 20 from Gwinternet and 29 and 27 from his old Royal Ravens duo, TJ Haley. So, Nasty, of course, 27 and 17. He has been on an island this whole year. Hashtag free Nasty. And yeah, speaking of free nasty, we had a 250 to 222 heartbreaker going in favor of the Vancouver Surge. Nasty, of course, losing to his old team is very tough considering his boys, you know, just beat him. You know, 0-4 and Abuza, they absolutely destroyed the Vancouver Surge when they just played their revenge series earlier in the weekend. They 3-0'd them. And then the Vancouver Surge, they were like, Nasty, no, you're not valid, brother. 3-1. So yeah, 27 and 37, 32 and 27 from Tej. Gwyn 30 and 27. That's why I was getting so tongue-tied. Abe 25 and 23. And then, like I said, everybody on Boston did really bad. Snoop 23 and 31, 22 and 26 out of Purge, and 22 and 26 out of Cam. So yeah, you want to be twinning that way, Cam and Purge. Speaking of twinning, C9 New York got a twinning scoreline to their last one earlier in the weekend. Well, no, they got a 3-1 against the Falcons. But anyways, Mercules was twinning again with that belt, 1.58. Very similar lashes to the ones that he gave in the last series that they played this weekend. So looking at it, Mercs, like I said, 71-45, Shotzi 68 and 55, and then Hook and Dashy went slightly negative, but you know, C9, you're gonna win most likely. So everybody on C9 went negative, blah blah blah. 250 to 133 in favor of Optic Texas. Mercules 35 and 23, Shotzi 33 and 24, Hook 33 and 24, duo, and then C9 negative, of course. 6-3 on the Den S&D. Mercules took over. He was doing things that should not be being done to people in Call of Duty, for being quite frank. And then you had Nezra 8 and 6, Hyde 8 and 7, Okus 7 and 7, and Encourage 3 and 6. Then everybody on Optic, they are just kind of like, whatever, you know, it's C9. And then in the map 3, Exposure Overload, this looks closer in the scoreline than it was in all actuality. C9 was playing weird. They had like a 3-3 cap advantage, or 3-2 cap advantage going into the half or something, and you know, then Optic brought it back, and C9 started to kind of make it close at the end or whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So not really that like close as it may seem, but yeah, it was okay. 31-23 out of Shotzi, 23 and 18 out of Merc, 21-21 out of Dashy, and then Encourage went slightly positive, 1.14. Hyde went even, and so did Nezra, and that's the series. So looking at the last series of the weekend, we had FaZe taking on G2. Not going to make this one super long. This is a fun one. If you missed any highlights, go back and watch them. Hashtag free simp, 105 and 80 is crazy, 1.31. Abuza tried his very best sports simp, but 04 and draws just evidently didn't do enough when it mattered, right? So looking at the G2 side, SQUADS was the only player to go positive. Everybody else on the team was just doing their part and, you know, contributing to the wins where they needed to. Looking at the map 1, of course, you had strong contributions from everyone on FaZe, 35 and 25 from 04, 29-21 from Draza, Simp 32 and 25, and Abuza 20 and 18. And then on the G2 side, Sky's the lone person with a good KD, 30 and 26. In the map 2, you of course had a 6-3 decisive scoreline in favor of G2, which is pretty good for them considering the fact that FaZe has been pretty dominant in the S&Ds in the matchup between these two teams this year. So you had Skies going 8 and 4. You had Krem 10 and 6, and on the other side you had Simp 11 and 6, and Abuza 8 and 7 for the L. Looking at the map 3, you of course had a Den overload, which is pretty much what they've played every time they've matched up. Pretty sure every time these two teams have played, it's been on Den when they've matched up in overload. So I guess, you know, it's just both their favorite overloads, and they like to just chow each other on it, no matter who gets Team B. So speaking of Team B, Estrel was definitely the A-Mike in this podcast. He had 29 and 21. He was the star of the show. And then on the other side, you had Abuza 29-17 to match Estrel. But, you know, obviously they lost in a close one. Simp was 22 and 22, but not enough to help out to get the dub. Looking at the map for it, we had Colossus HP, of course, going 250 to 140 in favor of FaZe Vegas. I mean, yeah, if you outslay the other team by 24 kills, you're probably going to win, unless you are the Carolina Royal Ravens. Am I right? Anyways, 34-19 from Simp, 27-21 from Draws, 27-24 from Abuz, and even KD 0-4 on 27-27. Everybody on G2 went negative. And then in the last map, we had a Colossus run back, Colossus S&D. Estrel dropped his nards on them, 10-4. Skies was 5-2. Mamba 9-6. This is a great turnaround from him to grab his chain from FaZe's greasy ass necks. So 0-4, the holder of the greasiest chain in the game, evidently went 7-7 to give that chain back to Mamba. And yeah, that's how we ended the week. So we had a really good week. We had some matches. I mean, they weren't really the most entertaining, as you guys can see. I mean, how many 3-0s do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3-0s in a week. And yeah, 5 3-0s and 5 3-1s from the looks of it. So that is definitely a week. We had 11 matches, 5 3-0s, 5 3-1s. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night, like I always say on these videos. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Once again, this is Chris from Fakes vs. News Exhortation. I will flip you on these interwebs, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.